This one is focused on engineering and particularly engineering management. We're excited to have Yujin Kim, who is the VP of Engineering from Justworks. Justworks is a large and growing, successful New York City startup. I'm excited because I'm a Justworks customer, and it seems to work really fast and not go down. So good job on the engineering team. But we're going to talk a little bit about, or Eugene's going to talk a little bit about growing that team, getting everybody sort of on the same page and building, sort of a first-class engineering environment. And I'll just give a little heads up. As many of us are, he's dealing with some home internet issues, so I'll jump in if anything goes wrong or whatever. But so if we get a little drag or whatever, it's typical work from home type stuff. But I'll let you get out of the way. But thanks so much for joining us.
Great.
Cool.
Let me
jump in and share. Yeah.
Share the screen. So hopefully people can see my screen well.
Not quite yet.
Nope. Okay, let me try this again.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Great. Awesome. Hello, everyone. Thank you again, Charlie, for having me. And I'm really grateful every one of you who are here today to listen to my talk. My name is Eugene Kim. I'm a VP of Engineering at Justworks. I just want to acknowledge, thank you for the screen shared yet. Oh, okay. Thanks Charlie for hosting me, and thanks Lauren Magnuson for organizing this event for us. Throughout my career, like many of you, I've attended so many talks, and some talks really clicked to me, and that led me to think differently, learn how to think about different problems, the fresh set of ideas. Some of the people I listened to at the talks, the speakers, have become my mentors, and they somehow changed my lives in a different way. So I'm very grateful for Brooklyn Bridge Venture for hosting this series StackUp and having me here today. Today, I want to talk a little bit about what does it mean to empowering a team and how that leads into successful organization. It's a journey that I'm going through. I think many of you are probably going through this. The empowerment is core foundation and something that everybody talks about, but it's really hard thing to do because there's so many different intangible things that goes along with this. So I'm here trying to share a little bit of framework that I've been using, I've been adopting and trying to apply to my previous job, my current job, and having had some success with it. So I'd like to share that with you, and hopefully that could be something that you could take away with it and use for your own benefits as well. And for those who are here who might be interested for more technical talk, microservices and technical architecture things, this is not the talk, so I'm very sorry about that. But I do think that this architecting human factors can be more challenging, but at the same time, it can be really rewarding if you can unlock the way to do this. So I think hopefully there's something interesting that comes out of it for you. A little bit about me. My name is Yujin Kim. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm not on any other social as of 2016. Currently, I'm serving as a VP of Engineering for Justworks. We'll talk about Justworks a little bit. I came to New York City in 2007. I was primarily in some media publishing industry. And then I did Java engineering and some DevOps work, system engineering type of things in various places. But and also had this opportunity to go through a couple of different M&As. One of them was a couple of months ago when Justworks bought a company called Boomer. And so I've gone through some different stages of company, 3-people company all the way to 58,000, 4 Fortune 100 companies. So I've gone through like various different paths here. And so my journey here leading to Justworks has been not a really straight road. It's very, very windy road, but I found it here, my destinations, really enjoying doing what I'm doing. And hopefully that is going to lead into a long road ahead. Justworks is, our mission is to build entrepreneurs and business to grow with confidence. And what we mean by that is that we take care of like payroll, benefits, and compliance, HR, which can be very daunting for business owners who are like really focusing on growing their business. So we want to be there. We want to be partners for people like Charlie to be there for them so that they can focus on growing their business and we can take care of all the nitty-gritty details that goes along behind the scenes. As you can see in the chart, we are rapidly growing. In the last year or so, we grow by like 40, 50, and I think we are really trying to accelerate our growth, especially in product engineering. So this idea of how do we grow a company that can be agile, but also feels empowered is really like one of the top concerns of mine. And we are like continuing to working through this. We are about 600 people as of now. So I want to kind of show these words: agile, lean enterprise, DevOps, continuous delivery. I think these are all the buzzwords that we all are very used to, and we are using it. And there's something really common about them. One is customers. It's very much customer driven. It's also speed driven. And there's a lot of feedback that people talk about in this similar context. And I think there's what leads into is really connection from the people, like people are being connected to things you do, to the customers. And I think that's really the strong foundation. The reason why I start with that is because if you have the connections, I think unlocking that like power and empowerment a lot easier. And if you don't feel the connection, it's really hard. And I've gone through like really difficult places where that didn't exist and had my own struggles. And today I'd like to talk about this structure, as we talked about earlier, and framework on how you kind of achieve that. And it's not a silver bullet like the playbook. It's just the way I'm approaching for different contexts. And the context that I am in is a Justworks, 600 people company, 100 or so product engineering team. We are trying to grow into 150 product engineering team. And how you do that? How do you do it in a way that's very sustainable, healthy, and that is a very durable, sustainable way. So this structure, organizational architecture is a word. I'm borrowing that from this gentleman, Michael Watkins. He was a former Harvard business professor. He wrote this book, First 90 Days, which I have been reading anytime I'm changing a job or anytime I'm hiring a new managers, or if somebody I know is getting a new job, I always recommend this book because it's I think it's really kind of clarifies the thing that you want to think about. In this book, he uses this framework that has 5 elements, and we want to go one by one and see what it means to us. Culture is defined by as the value, norms, and the assumption that shape the behavior. I think there's many different culture, but I want to think about what it means to have a purpose, mission, and strategies. Because Justworks is very much purpose-driven, we have a very strong missions around how we support small business and things like that. So this is very something that the folks at Justworks, who works at Justworks, really believe in it. But what we mean by purpose, purpose is why do you exist? Mission, who do we serve? And strategy, how do we do it? And if you kind of understand this construct really well, then you can try to connect the dots to here. And the things you do, whether you are engineer, your product, you are design, or you are some other function, sales or business, there's a thing that allows you to connect to this, and that's creating this hierarchy of thoughts. I think that's really important. And then once you have that, you can create very much purpose-driven culture. John Mackay, the founder and CEO of Whole Foods, says this: having a deeper and more transcendent purpose is highly energizing for all of the various independent stakeholders. And I think what you mean by independent stakeholders, it's not just like board or the investors, but everybody who is part of this journey, stakeholders, and you can bring that energy together. The HBR has this article called Culture Factor, and it describes 8 different type of cultures, and there's not like one culture that governs all. I think there's usually end up being like multiple facets of this culture, creates your own company's culture. But I do believe the purpose-driven culture creates the strongest bond there. And again, our purpose is to help people reach their potentials, and our mission that everyone at Justworks can cite and memorize this is our mission is to help entrepreneurs and businesses grow with confidence. We also have our value statement. We call it COGIS. It stands for camaraderie, openness, grit, integrity, and simplicity. This value part is very important to us, and we use it. We actually have an interview. Whenever you go to interview, the line of question we ask is trying to suss out whether they align with our values, and that's another way we can kind of connect people to it. So between purposes and shared value, it creates a pretty strong bond amongst the team members. And especially like a year like this, where we're going through a lot of challenging times, like many of all of you, I think those culture and this value really helped us go through some challenging times early on. So the learnings here is really know your organization purposes, find ways to for people to connect to it. I think as a leader, I think your job is always trying to look for a way to connect that story and keep the storytelling going. Strategy is a core approach an organization will use to accomplish its goal. And as we talked about in the purpose, mission, strategy sections, strategy is really how do you achieve that missions and purposes. So my way of thinking is people can connect to what they do to serve the purpose, mission, and strategies. And if you can do that on a daily basis, people come to work that they know why they are coming here, because what mission they are serving, who they are serving, and understanding that clearly and loudly. I think that really helps. There's also this concept of goal hierarchy. So like, you might have a company level strategy that states something, but at the engineering level, it might not be like it's directly aligned, but there's always this correlation how you connect the dots together. So when I think of business is really about trying to create your own investment opportunities and trying to meet that business objectives. And product, you work with product team to define what is best ways to pursue those goals. Technology is how to build that best as efficient way as possible. If you can tie this dots together and be able to articulate to your team, to your stakeholders, and other, even if you're like presenting your ideas to the board members and et cetera, I think it's going to be like unlocking a lot of this powerful construct and how you talk about your team's work. So like, for example, like I'll kind of talk a little bit about like how we do things. We have our 4 missions. 2 missions are very, very business strategic heavy and having a very clear business goals. We have 1 mission that's more of a future looking. So it's a lot of like, we know that it's going to go through some learning experiences. So we want to make sure that our business partners understand that. And we have one that's really R&D specific. So that actually carves out the foundation for the company. But we talk about at the business level, we talk about at the company OKR level, so that everybody understand that construct. So you can kind of keep talking about those. And then having that structure really helps, and the team can rally around those. In terms of structure, this strategy and goal hierarchy kind of goes hand in hand with the team structure in my mind. The most important part is a team has a mission, and the people can connect to the mission, and those missions are connected to the higher order missions. And depends on the stage of the company. You may have 1 or 2 teams, or sometimes some might have much larger than that. We are at that 12 or so agile teams, and we were kind of moving on like 12 different directions. It was really we are doing a really great work, but I think we are kind of losing the sense of the shared mission. So recently we've been kind of organizing the group into this model of cluster where you have multiple teams sharing missions, so that we are coming up with a more focus around those, which led to that 4 missions we talked about earlier. I think there's a lot of temptation to do a lot more, and especially if you're trying to find a market fit, or like you have customers asking for something, I think it's easy for us to really kind of fall into the temptation trying to do more. But I think the history has shown that, and data has shown that like doing less is more. And I think it's a like way to, as a leader, trying to find a way to create those focus. I think it's really important to create that feeling of that. Then only then teams really can feel empowered to focus on the problems and trying to find a way to solve the problem. One thing to note that is some of you might be familiar with this Conway's law. Any organization that designs a system will produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. It's a quote from Melvin Conway. I think when you think about organization structure, I think you just have to make sure that you are keeping your eyes on to make sure that the organization structure is not creating that system structure that might not be sustainable in the future. So I'll suggest that you keep an eye on those. So from the learning's perspective, teams are connected to the missions and strategies on a daily basis. I think it's a very super powerful thing to do. It's really hard to do at the same time, but I think that as a leader, I think our job is really trying to find ways to make that happen and build a connection around you, not just think about engineering, but also think about product, business, customers, and all the other angles, as we talked about when you think about what it means to be agile, DevOps, etc. Just really work hard towards finding that language and vocabularies that your team, but also teams around you can connect to. I think is very important. Process. There's a lot of like way people talk about processes, but the way I think about it is really that developing a frictionless way to communicate information to people. So that people can find that information easily, the discovery is easier, access is easier, and understanding that information easier, and continue to do that. I think that's what the process is really for, and you're building systems around to make that work. For example, this is sort of like the way I think about it. Alignment is done through OKR. OKR is not to trying to discover the project you're trying to do. OKR is a way to share what you're trying to do with the rest of the group. So it's really for not only for your team to find the focus, but also for other teams who might not be deeply familiar with you and your team's work to do this. We at Justworks use various kind of OKR. For engineering side, we do a engineering excellence OKR so that we can kind of drive through test automations or our continuous deployments and other type of like tech-driven things, so that people understand that there's a work going on there, and those are very important work for us. And we use those kind of tools, and product will bring different ideas on how to open up a new market, for example, and provide some key results and KPIs that might go along with that, so that every business stakeholders can understand that. And I think that's really alignment and shared understanding tool. Agile, there's a lowercase agile and capitalized agile, and you can probably Google that, what the differences are. But really, like agile is not to introduce like strict process to the teams, but it's really trying to create some block of time where a certain thing can be done, so that within this time box, you can build something in a way that aligns that objectives, like whether it's OKR or other tools, and it's a really execution tools. There's also various like incident management process or like critical incidents or like PIK type of things people are doing, and it's really to de-risk the work that you have to do, so you can stay focused on the other thing that you like to do. And shared learning through core metrics, I think, as we talked about, is pretty important. And creating very open communication, whether it's a formal communication, informal communication, I think is very important. Like for Justworks, we do have every Tuesday, it's sort of like this information sharing day. We have all managers, engineering managers meeting. We have a leadership meeting, and we have an engineering weekly where we actually can share what all the engineers are doing. We have some demos going on, and at the end of the week, we have a product engineering demo, and we try to facilitate as much as possible to allow those communication to flow through. And for engineers specifically, we also have various working group, and these are all voluntary working groups where people can find things to tackle, and they can talk through those. And those informations are also rolled up to other. Our engineering manager started like our weekly engineering updates. So all this like information we are trying to do, all the great work we are doing is captured in there. And I think that we're trying to try to create as many communication channels as possible in a way that people will care about that. So it's always work in progress. So from learning perspective, just teams stay connected with other teams without friction. I think just think through the lens, and I think you might actually find something new that you might not have thought about. Talent is obviously, like, I start with the culture and I'm ending with the talent, but those two things are I think the most important ingredients of creating the culture where people feel empowered. And this is a phrase I really love reading about, and this gentleman, John Doerr, he's one of the famous VC, he's like in the board of Google. He says this: we need teams of missionaries, not the teams of mercenaries. What I mean by that is missionaries are, one, you have a very strong purpose in what you're trying to do, and you are pursuing that relentlessly, whereas the mercenaries might be, I'm just doing the work that's given to me. And you want to build a team with more missionaries than mercenaries. I think that's what I was trying to say. That's the way this manifests. I think this is probably one of the most important things that we all can think about as engineering leaders, as who are we creating opportunities for, and are the people doing the work that takes up your time, or are people are doing things on their own and feel really great about it, and you have a building the energy around those. And the culture I think we all trying to create is having a lot of people who are starters, independent thinkers, self-organizers, be accountable for a thing they say. And I think creating more that hiring those kind of people or developing those people, and also facilitating the environment for those people to flourish, I think is really important for as a leaders. And the more people you have around you, your job becomes a lot easier. So learning wise, just look for independent, self-driven, and self-driven people who are connected to the mission. I think that's sort of the roles that we ought to do. So as a final thought, role as a leader, the way I think about his goal is not to empower teams. Empowering teams means I feel like I'm doing something to them, but it's really the creating environment where people can be empowered and feel safe in doing those. And just to sum it up, there's organizational structure we just talked about. If you can create a purpose-driven culture and scale the teams around those shared missions and have with a clear set of objectives, and use tools like Agile and OKR or other tools with the team of missionaries, I think you can do some great wonders. So, thank you.
Cool. So I had a question along the way, and I certainly want to encourage anybody who wants to ask to either do so in the chat or use the ask a question function down at the bottom. How often do you think about structure and process, right? Like the current sort of design of these teams, you talked about iterating, change, and I'm sure things that work for 50 engineers may not work for 150. Would you recommend, like, do you do like an annual review of like, hey, are our processes working? Or is it more iterative where somebody could say, hey, we do things this way, but I don't know if that's really serving us properly? How often do you actually review the structure and the process itself?
It's a really great question. And I don't think I have a great answer, but my general philosophy is that the changing team structure is very costly things, because you need some time for teams to gel. You need some time for teams to understand this mission they're trying to do. Maybe like 2 quarters or more. It takes time to do that. So I think you want to be somewhat patient, but like as you see something that's really not working, you want to be able to jump in and tweak it. So the way I think about it is probably like every 1 year, you want to think about large team structure, whether it's needed or not, whether you do it or not. But also on a quarterly basis, do we need some people to move around because even at the individual level, this person tends to align with this particular mission better than the other ones. I think you want to continue to optimize the team structure in that sense.
Gotcha. And does your team structure affect the type of people that you hire? Like, do you look for people who have been in similar environments, or do you sort of treat the structure as, we think it's easy enough to understand and we think anybody can be successful in it?
The way we think about like this world of whether it's benefits or HR compliance, the state regulations and all this stuff like that requires a fair amount of domain knowledge. But we also know that nobody will come with that experience and knowledge to join Justworks. So we look for not the skills or existing knowledge, but more focusing on the abilities for people to learn and like this aptitude. And also this value, as we talked about, our common values. Do we fit in that? Do we feel like this person is not going to be one that's going to cause harm to our organization, even though the person might be incredibly smart? Thing like that is what we think about very carefully.
Gotcha. So we had a question in the polls here down at the bottom. Given the adjustment to work from home and the added stress of just everything that's gone on and sort of the past. Now we're working on eight months here, but do you have any tips or suggestions for just keeping a healthy culture and environment in this, kind of new work experience? And one of the things that I noticed is that it feels like because work is a bigger percentage of what people have, right? They're all of their other activities have kind of fallen by the wayside, maybe except for parenting. And so they're dependent on work for more. And maybe if work is stressful, it becomes even more difficult. So any things that as an organization you've learned to kind of keep that morale and that working culture positive?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. It's another difficult question.
I only ask the hard ones.
Yeah, I can tell. I think there's one thing is like this work-life balance we've been talking about prior to pandemic. It's become even blurrier. I actually like what Jeff Bezos said, because he said like I cannot separate my work-life balance. If I'm doing great at work, I'm great at home. If I'm not doing great at work, I'm not good at home, or vice versa. And I think there's some truth to that in many cases, but especially now it becomes even more challenging because like there's no physical separation of your work life and personal life. The other angle is that we, especially these days, we talk a lot about diversity in our culture, but even like how people approach remote work, there's some level of diversity. Like people with family, like with kids, will have a different experience to that, or people with single might have a different experience. And there's all kinds of different, like you might be like more of extrovert, so you want to hang out with people versus you might be introverted, you might be really fine with it, this quiet space you have, and really being aware and not to trying to come up with one solution that fits all, but thinking about different angles and really let the people be. I think that's one thing. So like I know that there's a period of time there's a lot of like this Zoom-based happy hour people are doing, but it's also acknowledging not everybody wants to be on Zoom, or not everybody wants to drink. I think all the thing has to be you just have to be aware and just be thinking from your team's perspective. I think then you can probably help. But I don't think there's a really great answer, because everybody's struggling, everybody's having some challenging time, and just finding the right balance to do that. Like recently we had a company event. We had an external comedian coming and did a whole spiel, and it was really great because our leaders didn't want to do anything heavy, so we just did the external guest to come in to give us some laughs, and that was great. And I think you want to mix it up with the really serious talk versus some lighthearted talks and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Cool. We have another question, Daniel, and thank you, Sean, for your question. But Daniel asked, for work that is driven by a working group, how do you make sure that these types of initiatives move forward, given that a lot of times when people jump into a working group, maybe it's not their primary responsibility, and so people have other time commitments, but the working group itself is is still important, and you want to make sure that things still kind of get done.
It's a very interesting because we are going through some some process around those. But the way I've been discussing with the team is that if you want to have some work that you like to get done, that might affect more time and or more resources across the teams and things like that. We have two different things. One is called RFC, request for comments. So people are already very used to creating this RFC, get the buy-in and all that stuff like that. But when it comes to executions, while there's a desire to have like, hey, 20% of your time is this and all that, but even though like the nature of work that goes into the working group, the more that can be aligned to the like higher themes, the better. So one of the things that we've been doing is if you have some ideas for the next quarter, why don't you put that on the proposal that so we can make into the OKR and we can kind of align on those. So we've done that. So we have actually one of our engineer who just joined us like 3 months ago, put together, like we have our company OKR and the product engineering wide OKR, and he came up with this deck and why we need to improve our testing infrastructure, and he kind of cited different objectives that we cited. So it's great because now that alignment happens, and if you can do informal violent working group to this more like formal OKR structure in that sense, it kind of creates a nice balance. And I think as a leader, engineering leader, your goal is trying to make sure they get their time to do those. So we're trying to do that. Work in progress, though.
Gotcha. As is all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, listen, thank you so much for spending your midday time with us. We really, really appreciate it. And this was super useful. So thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Charlie. And thanks everyone for coming by today.
No problem. Stay safe.